I want to shout out the Warriors for watching my channel. Maybe it's coincidence. Maybe. Probably. Right? But if you've been following me for a while now, usually if I bring up a problem with a certain player, immediately that thing tends to change. Right? And the chances are that they're probably just seeing the same problem. They go look at the tape and they're addressing it at the same time because it's a time where it's like, hey, this has to be addressed. So, maybe it is a coincidence. Maybe it's not. Maybe I'm motivating your favorite player. I don't know. But yeah, the Warriors starting to look like the Warriors. The championship vibes, the energy is starting to feel right, right? There's a morale, there's a chemistry besides the winning that's good, that's going along with the winning right now that I think has Dub Nation feeling a lot better than they did, let's say, 10 days ago, right? Rattle off a couple wins, do it in impressive fashion, right? Let's start with Draymond. I dropped a video last week, washed or waiting, right? And I explained my reasons. Yes, I know. Draymond's not my favorite. I've been trying to trade him for years and all that. Again, it's the fear of when he falls off, what it's going to look like being the player that he is. So after that video comes out, all of a sudden he's inspired. He's playing with the more energy and urgency than I've seen all season long. Maybe it's just a coincidence. That's fine. I don't need to take credit or want credit. I'm just when people listen, when you cover the team like me, you don't have the luxury of picking and choosing like when to gloat or when to say things. If I'm covering the team on a daily basis, I have to say, hey, Draymond doesn't look good right now. Hey, Clay's playing selfish. Now, when it gets fixed, people will run back to the video and be like, oh, what were you saying? Look now. Well, at the time of the video, usually that's the problem I see. And that's what I do. I address it. And so, yeah, man. Back to Draymond, right? Last two, he comes out and he's just pushing the pace, man. Like, listen, when you age as a ball player, the first things that usually go are your lateral quickness, your bounce, and perhaps like a first step if you're relying on a first step, right? But Draymond, his speed is still there, right? Especially up and down the court in motion. If he can play in motion, grab and go. And the way he pushed the pace, especially against the Sharman Towers the other day in Minnesota, I mean, he looked like prime Jason Kidd. That's how Jason Kidd used to play. And I know I'm getting carried away here, but like that relentless pace into the front court that is just, it's exhausting, not just physically, but mentally. Every time there's a change in possession, boom, he's gone, right? And so it was that energy and pace that I think is his greatest weapon right now. And that's not to say that he's not a good defender, but yeah, if he's lacking a little bit laterally and vertically at this time, you get it, right? But I said it. I shout out playoff Draymond on Twitter. He's quick to get on my neck about something, and I get it. The fan account, that's fine. But I said, hey, maybe this will motivate him. Maybe he'll hear the chirping, and he'll play some inspired ball. And I don't know. He did. So I understand that Draymond can't play with that energy and pace every night at this stage in his career, but I love that he flashed it. He let us know he's waiting. He still got it, right? He can still flip that switch. So that's huge news in the Warrior universe, that that it wasn't like he was trying to switch into third gear and he couldn't. He just was kind of, I don't know what he was doing, right? But Draymond's pace, and then so he scores 19 points for the first time since 2019 against those Wolves and those Sharman Towers. I keep throwing that out there. That's what I've deemed them. I have to get that out there. The Sharman Towers, Towns, listen, I hope it's not an Achilles. Went down last night. I was watching Porzingis look like prime Rasheed Wallace against them. I'll talk about the Wolves here in a second after I get through the Warriors. 19 points from Draymond. Since y'all are listening, since the Warriors do listen to my channel, I'm joking, but am I? How does he, it's not like we need big points out of Draymond, right? But double digits, if he's giving you 10 a game, that's pretty nice. You never have too much scoring. I think the key was 8 free throws. He was 6 of 8 from the foul line. He's quietly shooting well at the foul line, and he's one of those clutch foul shooters, right? Like I'm fine with him on the foul line in crunch time, right? It's just throughout the season his percentages aren't great. But he attacked, he pushed the pace, but he also looked to drive into the chest of those two bigs, and he got to the line. And I think if he can continue that mentality of getting to the line, because again, he shoots fine there, that will help. As far as the three ball goes now, you've seen him hit a few from the corners, the short corners or below the break, as they like to call it, right? Draymond's shot preparation is so important. Now, you listen to any trainer, any skills trainer, any shot coach, they're going to tell you shot preparation is rules all for everybody, right? If your feet's set, you're on balance, everybody shoots better that way. There's no doubt about it. But where Draymond's shot tends to break down is in the dip, right? Backpack Draymond, the dip. And so when he's on the wings below the breaker in the corners, if he can be shot ready with his hip already dipped, it just greatly increases his percentages on that three ball. At the top of the paint, I understand why he's not shot ready, because he's usually looking for handout. He's not looking for his shot there. But if you're on the weak side, right, and you're in the corner, you can be shot ready, and you're seeing him knock those down. So Draymond, if you are listening, stay shot ready in the corner, baby. Keep knocking them down. I'm not hating on you. I'm just speaking the truth. Let's move on to Klay, right? We talk about being shot ready in the weak side. Klay's patience. Right? There was the meeting. He started to move the ball around, and you're seeing he's back up to 40%, right? 40% from behind the arc, and it's the weak side shots, the second side shots. The ball gets, reverse ball swing, and he's open on the weak side where he doesn't have to create the shot. His feet are set, and playing just with a patience. But look, I never thought Klay was washed physically during this thing. To me, it wasn't a physical problem. It was an approach. It was a mentality issue, right? And that's why I think he was able to fix it so fast. When it's a physical issue, sometimes you can't fix that, and that may take longer. But once he kind of just changed his approach, it all started to open up for him. But I think the most important thing about it was he'll come out, Klay will do his thing. He's going to put up a couple quick ones. That's fine. Shooters shoot, right? But in the last handful of games, if he's not hitting early, he kind of falls back, right? He kind of falls back, and he's being more patient, understanding how long the game is, that eventually he's going to get his opportunities. You got Loon smashing the offensive glass. Like an offensive rebound from Loon is an automatic three ball for us, right? And he's been feasting off those. And you've seen him push the ball or get the ball early, give it up, and then ultimately he gets it back. So he's being rewarded for his patience and unselfishness. And now the Warriors, they're 35 assists a game, right? They're back to playing Warrior ball. And so Klay, his patience, it's paid off, man. And he's taking good shots. That one late in Minnesota, Klay's crazy for that one, man. But, what are you going to do? That's the same reason why we love him. Because it's like, no. Oh, he hit it. He's crazy. That mentality, right? I think the next step for Klay is the team defense, right? Particularly switching. I said it in the breakdown the other day. Look, I can't always, when I'm watching tape, recognize who is at fault for the switch, right? Sometimes you can, right? Sometimes it's blatant with some of the younger players. But what I do know is whenever there's a lot of the switching issues, Klay's involved in them, right? And so I do know that. And I think it's simple. It starts with talking and communicating and talking early. This is what I yell at young fellas all the time playing pickup. Hey, you can't call screen when the screen is set, fam. You got to call it before it's set, as it's coming. And the same thing applies to the switch. You can't call the switch as you need it to happen. You have to call it before it's taking place. That's how the seamless switching happens. Now, sometimes you have a scheme out there with players where it goes without saying. That was the old school strength and number Warriors with Livingston, Andre. They were on such a rope, on such a string, they didn't even have to communicate because it was switch everything. This version of the Warriors doesn't have that luxury. And Klay, I know it's maybe out of his comfort zone a bit, and Wiggins is guilty of this too. Klay and Wiggins got to talk a little more on these switches and do it early. Third reason, I didn't really list these off. I think I haven't made the thumbnail or titled this yet, but I think it's going to be, the 3 reasons you can tell the Warriors are back to being the Warriors. Championship vibes and energy, right? The third one, we've went over Klay, we went over Draymond. The third one is Steph's throwing the ball everywhere. He's throwing the ball all around, right? What do you have, 7 turnovers in Minnesota, right? Behind the back, flipping it over his head. You know the vibes and energy are back to normal when Steph is playing that loose, right? And it was nice to see them dominate a game where Steph wasn't really having that great of a game, right? Like he wakes up with 25 points, but his floor game was pretty bad in Minnesota. Now, did the referees help? That's for those of you that didn't see it, right? Draymond gets a tee late for celebrating in that game, and then Steph goes and gets himself a tee just to prove a point because he hadn't got a call all game against his brother-in-law Austin Rivers. And I don't know what's going on in Minnesota. You remember this dates back to the KD era where I think they all got tossed out of a game and there was an altercation. I don't know if it's just coincidence or what. But yeah, so here's the thing. I saw a quote from Chandler Parsons, former NBA player, and they were saying, "Oh yeah, man, these guys get real braggadocious." And look, this has been he made a point. He made a point. I don't have the quote verbatim, but they were basically saying like, yeah, the Warriors shouldn't get so sensitive when the media has something to say about them because look how much they celebrate when they up, stuff like that, right? Here's the thing because my problem with some of the refereeing in the NBA and all refereeing is, look, if we're not going to have robots, if there's going to be humans refereeing games, sometimes you got to use the spirit of the game rule, the human element of it, right? Because you're going to have errors, but use the spirit of the game rule. There was no point to teeing up Draymond 94 feet in a blowout, right? But there was a point. And back to Chandler Parsons' point, as he said that this is what caught my ear was, he said, this is who they've always been, though, right? They've always done this celebrating, and they're lucky they don't get teed up more for it. That was his take. And he's right. This is what they've done from day one. Remember, young Kent Bazemore on the bench in 15. It's been 10 years of dominance. It's been 10 years of letting them hang on all these boys and celebrating like that, right? You don't think the refs are tired of it too? I think that there's an element of that, right? There's an element of not just the league and the players. The referees are tired of watching the Warriors dominate and then rub it in everybody's face. Hey, I'm all for it. I want a couple more. Who cares, right? As Dub Nation, we love it, but we don't see it objectively. How can we? And I imagine as another fan, as a team, other teams, these refs, they got to be so annoyed of watching this, and they still doing it. 10 years in. 10 years from now, we'll still be on top. Yeah, I just quoted Puff. But you see what I'm saying? So I think that some of that refereeing stuff, this is just an accumulation of a decade of dominance and braggadocious swagger from this core. So I wanted to talk a little bit about this Wolves team because, listen, a lot of people felt like this was going to be the outcome, and here it is, right? They've destroyed their team. The Rudy Gobert trade, I can say 20 games in, was a catastrophic mistake. I watched Porzingis it's bad. It's bad. And it's killed the chemistry and morale of the team, right? Not only did you give up all your draft capital, but your glue energy guys in Beverly, Vanderbilt, and Beasley, right? And it kind of reminds me of, to take this over to football for a second, it reminds me of the Russell Wilson trade to the Broncos this year. Now, I don't think as many people thought that was going to go wrong, right? Most people on paper were like, oh, Denver, here they come, right? But what's actually played out is very similar. It's a catastrophic mistake that's going to set your franchise back I don't know how far, right? And the Charmin Towers, no wonder Edwards is just frustrated. And at some point here, if they don't change the way they play, now Cat got hurt last night, and so it may force their hand. Again, hopefully, he's so dramatic when he hits the ground. Hopefully he was just being dramatic. It was a non-contact thing. But at a certain point here, Ant Edwards is going to pop off if he has to play with those two goofballs in the paint all the time and trying to, you know what I mean? So it's just a devastating move that ruined things. Alex Rodriguez, the new ownership group, they want to make a splash. And so I'm sitting there, I'm like thinking, like, listen, I wouldn't mind poaching Naz Reid off of them, right? I like Naz Reid as a backup big, but I don't know what type of moves they made. I'll propose something to you. What if they trade one of those 7-footers for Russ? You know, the Lakers, I know the Lakers had won a few games here. They got beat at the buzzer last night by the Pacers, right? But isn't Russ's numbers coming off the book? Wouldn't that kind of get them out of this jam here with those two guys? And then if you're the Lakers, you're kind of desperate anyway, and one of these two bigs that you make the trade for, now you can slide AD to the 4 and he can play where he wants to play. I don't know. I don't know what Minnesota does. All I know is what a catastrophic mistake that trade was. But boy, it's fun to watch. It's fun to watch teams go in there and lick their chops and just destroy them. But hopefully Towns, hopefully it's just a calf strain or something. I wouldn't be surprised if he was back in a week. We know how he is. We know how he is. Anyway, Warriors, Mavericks struggling themselves, going to pick up. Here's how you know that I haven't really been paying attention to the Mavericks. I know the big topic has been Luka's usage, right? Brunson and Christian. Brunson gone, Christian Wood not starting. JaVale McGee hasn't worked out there. Hey, send him back to the Bay, baby. But you knew things were looking down when they signed Kemba Walker over the last 24 hours. I don't know if it's official, but that's the report I've been reading. And that reeks of desperateness. That said, Luka, the Mavs, you know they're going to be up against the champs in some sort of revenge fashion, right? And if they get going from behind the arc, it won't be easy. But I'll be back with the breakdown for that one tomorrow on my Patreon. Hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.